Hello and welcome to our session, Innovating Training for New and Future Team Members, a virtual game world to foster clinical competence and interest in long-term care. Today's session is hosted by the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care, or the Ontario CLRI. I'm Christina Gallucci, Projects and Evaluation Manager, and joining me today are
Raquel Meyer, Director of the Ontario CLRI at Baycrest.
And Shoshana Halfenbaum, Interprofessional Educator with the Ontario CLRI at Baycrest.
The Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care strengthen the quality of life and care for residents across the province. We are a program of the Ontario Ministry of Health and Ministry of Long-Term Care that acts as a resource for the sector to enhance the health and well-being of people who live and work in long-term care. We do this by providing education and training, sharing research and innovations, and identifying and developing resources for homes. The program partners with the long-term care sector to provide solutions for priority issues, including COVID-related challenges for homes and future workforce engagement. We're funded by the Government of Ontario and hosted at 3 sites, Baycrest Health Sciences, Bruyere, and the Schlegel UW Research Institute for Aging. Although we are meeting virtually, we acknowledge that Baycrest operates on the traditional territories of many Indigenous nations which have cared for the land for thousands of years, including the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat peoples. And we recognize the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This land remains home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land today. You may live and work in different territories, so we encourage you to reflect on the land on which you're located and to consider your relationship to the land and to the people who are the traditional keepers of the land. This presentation is supported in part with funding from the Government of Ontario through the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of the province.
Thanks for joining us. If you are looking to attract the next generation of students into long-term care, this session is for you. Did you know that nearly 90% of adolescents play video games? Well, we've tapped into the skill to engage healthcare students in learning about long-term care. Today, we'll share our successes with students in LIFA and how we can support your home in implementing LIFA this year to improve the quality of clinical placements. We hope today's session will be a source of inspiration and concrete support for you, your team, and your home by exploring the potential and actual benefits of LIFA implementation among organization administrators, students, and new hires in long-term care, understanding the clinical competencies that are promoted through the use of LIFA among students new to the long-term care sector, and identifying the resources and supports needed to successfully implement LIFA, a serious educational game-based learning solution in long-term care homes and educational institutions.
Would you like students coming into your long-term care home to be more prepared to interact with and care for residents living with common health conditions? Would you like them to have some practice with common care situations before arriving in the home? If so, we invite you to learn today how LIFA, which is available for free to both schools and homes, can make this a reality. Personal support worker and nursing students in year 1 of their studies have told us that LIFA consistently improved their confidence in key abilities for long-term care practice, including responding with compassion, demonstrating role clarity and communication, assessing risk and safety for self and others. Students were also more confident about prioritizing multiple concerns and care needs and applying best practices. LIFA is available for free to homes and schools to help your students build this confidence. Let's take a look at LIFA together now.
It's time for a new paradigm in student education and clinical learning in healthcare, especially now, during the time of the pandemic, when clinical placements are declining and less accessible. How can educators offer opportunities to entry to practice healthcare students to safely rehearse care? Introducing LIFA, our Learning Interprofessionally Healthcare Accelerator, an innovative, interactive, and effective way to rapidly and virtually educate healthcare students. Currently, LIFA is available for Ontario nursing and PSW students in long-term care. The goal of LIFA is to introduce and deepen student learners' knowledge, skills, and attitudes in gerontology, with a focus on vulnerable older adults living with frailties and varied cognitive abilities in long-term care. Within LIFA, students will practice and develop confidence caring for virtual long-term care residents with health conditions that reflect the profile of this population, either individually or as clinical groups with an instructor. LIFA uses simulation and case-based learning grounded in a serious educational game to enable students to rehearse interprofessional competencies in gerontology. LIFA's theme learning environment will immerse students into a compelling narrative to explore and work through simulations and case-based scenarios. The storyline, accompanying visuals, and underlying game mechanics set the foundation for a strong educational game. The benefits of using LIFA are many. It acts as a virtual preceptoring experience focused on best practices, safety, and teamwork. Evidence-informed case-based simulations and Ontario CLRI-designed resources have been curated and collated. Learners are immersed in multimedia experiential learning. Learners can safely apply competencies to real-world, common, and outlier scenarios and receive instant feedback to support clinical reasoning. Faculty can readily access a performance dashboard to monitor students' progression and learning analytics. Currently, LIFA is available for Ontario nursing and PSW students in long-term care. And access to LIFA is flexible. Learn on any device, anytime, with 24/7 availability. Now, let's review the various components of the platform. Competencies, simulations, and topics covered in LIFA are designed for a range of learners. To build student confidence, players first engage in rapid skill building mini simulations focused on a single competency at a time. Then, learning is scaffolded to enable learners to transfer these competencies to more complex and advanced cases that reflect real-world clinical scenarios. Rapid skill building simulacra are brief miniature simulations where learners begin to understand and practice application of key personal and nursing care skills in long-term care. In a series of relational care simulations, the key learning objectives include identifying primary concerns and safety observation of the resident. And we also have a curated selection of multimedia best practices resources, which are housed in a digital library. This includes various resources accompanied by brief knowledge comprehension quizzes to ensure understanding. These components are available in different LIFA packages, which are designed to complement and augment PSW and nursing students' first and second clinical placements in long-term care. Here's a look at the curriculum. Modernize health professionals' curricula and clinical placements with LIFA, a virtual platform to build and enhance competencies. Get started with LIFA today. Improve the gerontological competence of your students. LIFA, augment your curriculum. Accelerate your students' confidence and competence.
The health human resource crisis in long-term care has been exacerbated by the pandemic, but it's been a growing concern for over 20 years. So now more than ever, we must attract students into long-term care, and the next generation of healthcare providers need specialized training to be successful in our settings. LIFA can help supplement personal support work and nursing student clinical experiences through virtual learning. LIFA continues to develop to be responsive to the needs emerging in long-term care, and we tailor it, implement it, and evaluate it with both new hire team members and students in Ontario long-term care homes and schools. LIFA is available for free to Ontario homes and schools. To have one of our knowledge brokers connect with you, please fill out this easy, short intake form and they will be in touch with you. All right, so what is LIFA? LIFA integrates elements of simulation and games to create what we term a meta simulation game world. It features game-based learning to activate the reward centers in the brain, story-based learning to connect content to emotions, and a narrative that pulls the learning together into a coherent growth and learning experience. Within these types of learning, we're able to include a wide range of online activities to support key performance areas and competencies that are necessary to succeed in long-term care.
LIFA creates opportunities for students to acquire knowledge, values, attitudes, behaviors, and skills that are key for succeeding in long-term care, with virtual, flexible, self-directed opportunities to learn through experience. Students rehearse and build their confidence by working through resources, mini cases, and extensive care mission cases that follow a 4-step clinical framework. The steps follow a trajectory of clinical practice from meeting the resident and others involved in a given situation through to collaborative care planning. Step 1 is to identify strengths and abilities. Step 2 is to understand main health conditions prevalent in long-term care. Step 3 is to communicate with compassion. And step 4 is to integrate and apply care principles. We have designed the game to offer learners mini cases in each of these 4 steps in the clinical framework. Then we group them in more extensive cases called care missions, where they meet 4 residents with 4 particular health conditions and care needs. In these care missions, learners get a chance to apply all of the steps of the clinical framework, one after the other, to mirror the trajectory of care in real-life practice. These are the different practice areas we offer badges in to help players build a range of competencies specific to LTC. Some of these badges cross multiple fundamental skills, such as the Competent Carer badge. It's awarded to healers who put the fundamental principles of respect, dignity, autonomy, and independence, comfort, IPAC, and safety into practice. To be awarded this badge, players must complete all rapid care missions relating to these key principles. An example of completing a rapid care mission would be selecting the best way to demonstrate respect in one of the mini cases. There are also badges awarded for demonstrating one of the 4 steps in the clinical framework. For example, the Compassionate Communicator badge is awarded to players who answer a series of questions demonstrating their ability to use the ARC Compassionate Communication tool in a full care mission.
As you've seen for yourself so far, LIFA offers endless possibilities. What are the actual benefits of LIFA when put into practice? We sought the experiences of long-term care homes and school administrators and over 400 first-year students in nursing and PSW programs to find out. To do this, we carried out a combined process and outcome evaluation using mixed method approaches consisting of surveys, interviews, and field notes to explore our evaluation questions. We were curious to learn more about what are the benefits of LIFA to long-term care homes and schools? What are the outcomes of playing a serious educational game in LIFA? And how can we best support long-term care homes and schools to adopt LIFA at their organization? So what did we discover? That LIFA offers students an opportunity to succeed in their learning and to be prepared for a career in long-term care. There were several ways administrators reported that LIFA was positively influencing students and team members. Administrators saw many benefits to students, including increased interest in the field of gerontology and geriatric care, and increased knowledge about topics critical to older adults and aging. Another key benefit was that student confidence related to providing care for older adults was enhanced, and these benefits were also echoed by the students themselves. One student described their experience with LIFA, saying, "It's very relevant. Everything that is inside Carthage, which is the game that was played in LIFA, was 100% relevant to the course I have in my school. Despite some schools making LIFA gameplay voluntary for students, 87% of students completed the game, which meant successfully completing all the learning activities in LIFA. There were many benefits associated with LIFA gameplay. Some highlights of these benefits included that students were more interested in the field of gerontology and geriatric care, which was aligned with our initial objectives. They also shared that they were able to apply their learnings in practice and suggested that LIFA could be used as mandatory pre-placement training in the future. Students also reported improvements to their study habits, which they said would help them in their studies going forward. And another element of gameplay was that they valued the cases in the game because they were multicultural and realistic. The vast majority of students shared that they experienced improved confidence across a number of clinical competencies as a direct result of LIFA gameplay. Over 80% of students reported that their confidence increased in providing a compassionate response to resident care concerns, assessing risk to themselves and others, balancing quality of life and risk in care planning, and applying best practices. Over 75% of students said that their confidence in understanding role clarity and their scope of practice increased, as did their ability to identify, prioritize, and respond safely to urgent situations and symptoms. Students also felt that they could better manage multiple care priorities and report back to their teams. From an equity, diversity, and inclusivity perspective, we learned that the students really valued the diversity of the simulated residents, characters, and avatars featured in the game. Students reported that they saw themselves represented in these characters, and they experienced increased empathy for diverse groups of older adult populations. Our evaluation led to valuable information about how to best support organizations. The Ontario CLRI team offered and continues to offer end-to-end individual or group support for organization administrators and participating staff and students through regular access to our knowledge brokers. Administrators shared with us that this support was instrumental to the adoption and implementation of LIFA at their organization, and that their experience with our personalized knowledge broker support was, quote, phenomenal. We also offer easily accessible IT help desk support where members from our project team provide tailored and individualized solutions for administrators, staff, and students.
The Ontario CLRI currently offers LIFA for free. We offer packages tailored not only for new and senior students, but also for new personal support worker and nursing hires in long-term care homes. Backfill funding is also available to long-term care homes in Ontario to ensure that your home's new hire can experience the benefits of this innovative training.
After years of developing and researching ways to use serious educational games and simulation together to meet the needs of long-term care, LIFA is now available. It was built for, with, and by long-term care stakeholders, including residents and families themselves. We are truly grateful to be able to offer it to you in an accessible format with little or no cost. Please get in touch with us by filling out our intake form so one of our CLRI knowledge brokers can connect with you. We're here to help you use LIFA to meet the needs of the sector and to help bring the next generation of students into long-term care.
So we welcome your questions. Alternatively, if you'd like to learn more about LIFA or this year's opportunities, please reach out to me directly at the contact details listed here.
We're one of 6 Ontario CLRI presentations at this year's conference. Be sure to check out our other presentations. Follow us on Twitter at CLRI_LTC, or email us if you have questions about anything you've seen from the Ontario CLRI at info@clri-ltc.ca. Thanks very much for your time today, and we hope you enjoyed today's presentation.